Hello and welcome to the St. Lawrence's College podcast. My name is Connor. Today we are going to be talking about the the new for Queensland Australian Tertiary Admissions Rank, or ATAR, and the brand new QCE, or Queensland Certificate of Education system that's being implemented with this year's Year 12 students. So what is it? The Australian Tertiary Admissions Rank is the new OP. It is much more precise. It ranges from the highest possible one is a 99.95, and it goes up and down in 0.5 increments. So it's a much more precise system than the old OP system, which was 1 to 25, if I recall correctly. In addition to this, in line with the new ATAR, the Queensland Certificate of Education system and syllabus for Year 11 and 12 has also changed in line with that. Students in Year 12 will complete 3 internal assessments, which are written by the school and then endorsed by the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. And then every student in the state will complete an external exam for their ATAR eligible subjects at the end of Year 12. So every student in Queensland who is doing, for example, drama will do the same exam, will sit the same exam for drama. So we wanted to just sort of explain the ATAR system in sort of some simpler terms for people to understand, because I know when I was looking at it the first time, when they told us, hey, you're going to be the first of this brand new system, I was like, oh my God, this is very confusing. And it took me quite a while to fully understand that system. We spoke to the QCEE's Chief Executive Officer, Chris Ryder, and I know there were a lot of concerns from Year 12 last year, last year's Year 11s, this year's Year 12s, about whether or not ATAR and the new QCE system is ready, because there was a lot of uncertainty. The QCEE has told us that they've been working with education partners for over the past 4 or 5 years, to ensure that the system is rigorous and ready. They've run many professional development programs with teachers to ensure that teachers themselves are ready for this system to be implemented. It's also been raised within the school by some people who I've spoken to about whether or not this was the right way to implement this new system. Whether a better way to do it would be to build it up from Year 7 onwards. That way they're learning with that new consistent style, because it really is a bit of a new style of learning, because you can't just be assessed on something and forget it. You sort of have to remember it, because there's always a chance that it will be assessed on your external exam. And of course, nobody knows, except the QCEE, nobody at the school will know what is on that external exam. And we put that to the QCEE. They said that the standard needed to achieve well will be the same year to year. The QCEE has always had robust procedures to ensure student results are fair and comparable across schools. You can read the full statement from QCEE by following a link in the description of this video. I also recently sat down with the Dean of Studies at St. Lawrence's College. I spoke with Mr. Cook about this new system, and he just gave a little bit of insight into this system. All right, well, Mr. Cook, thank you for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, Connor.
So what is the ATAR system?
Okay, well, the ATAR is not really a system. The ATAR is a tertiary education rank. That's all it is. It's a numerical calculation that's performed at the end of Year 12, right across the country, to provide a basis for universities to select students.
Okay, and what are the differences as opposed to the previous OP system?
Well, the differences are really in the mechanisms that are used to come up with that score. The OP system was designed to do the same thing, that is, provide universities with information about students so that they can make their selections. It's just the mechanisms that are different. So under the previous system, the purpose of the QCS test, which all students had to do, was to effectively get some sort of scaling across the state. So that was the only piece of assessment that all students in Queensland were sitting for. The newer system, each subject has a piece of assessment which all students do. So it's a different way of being able to make sure that there's that comparability across the state.
Is this better than the old system?
Look, I think it's probably too early to say. The old system wasn't broken, but it had its problems. This system, I think we've got some early teething problems, but they'll get better over time. In terms of the ideas behind it, I think it's got some stronger benefits. So in that sense, I think it's a better system, but time will tell.
So it's not just the ATAR system, or the ATAR, the tertiary entrance score, that has changed. It's also this whole new QCE system that has changed
now that's
as
significant,
well.
yes.
Yes, so that's Queensland's high school leaving certificate.
Correct.
How is this system different from the previous one?
Really there's not too much different, but there are some subtle changes that have happened. So the QCE has been in place now for, I don't know the date that it came in, but it's a significant amount of time now, and it was put in place to be a qualification at the end of Year 12. So rather than just leaving Year 12 with nothing, it was recognised as a qualification. So that was the purpose behind it. Now, under the previous system, what happened was you would accrue credit points at the end of the course. So that is, if you passed your mathematics course, you would get 4 credit points for the course. The difference under the new system is you gain those credit points as you go. So if you pass the first semester, you pick up a credit point. If you fail the second semester, you lose one. Or you don't really lose it, you just don't gain that credit point. So you might finish the subject passing mathematics and only get 3 credit points rather than 4. So that's the big difference, and we're finding a lot of students are falling into that trap where they're missing one of those early credit points, still getting through at the end, but they won't get the full 4 credit points.
So under this system, students in year 12 will do, or are supposed to do, not necessarily this year, 3 internal assessments, which are written
Correct.
by the school and then endorsed by the QCEE.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone across the state who is doing, for example, drama, will sit the same exam for drama as an external exam, and that happens in every subject. So for those internal assessment items, so some of those will get sent away to be confirmed.
They all get sent away. All of the assessment items are approved.
Yes.
I think you're referring there to the students' responses to those assessment items.
The confirmation process. Yes.
That's what the confirmation process is. So in each subject, QCEE will ask us for a sample of students. Now, previous system, we chose the students that we sent away, and that was done towards the end of Year 12. This system, we don't get to choose the students. So that's done based on the scores that students achieve and based on the spread of the data in that subject. But every subject for every school across the whole state has a selection of students that have to go to be confirmed.
Mm-hmm. So some parents in Year 12 have been a little bit confused in the last couple of years about the quote-unquote odd timing of exam block periods.
Yes, they're unusual.
Yes. Can you explain why this is now happening necessarily more so during the term as opposed to previously when it was at the end of terms?
Yeah, look, the problem there is that the external assessment now takes up pretty much term 4. So from week 4 of term 4, we're into our external assessment block. Now, we need time to prepare for those external exams. So we got to finish that IA3 or that previous assessment in the middle of term 3 so that we've got plenty of time to prepare for the external exam. So that means all of a sudden that we have to run some sort of assessment block in the middle of term 3, and you keep backward mapping from there, and it creates these unusual timings. We're certainly looking to refine those as we move forward, and perhaps by doing some of those at the end of Year 11. But certainly for the first time through, it created some very unusual timings.
Yes, it did. So for Year 11 students, towards term 4, they might, in some subjects, begin working on Year 12 work.
They definitely will. All subjects in Year 11 will commence Unit 3 at the start of term 4. Right. Now, that probably didn't happen consistently across the school last year, but we've reflected on that. We've discussed that with our middle leadership team, and we've come to the decision that that's the cut-off point. Unit 2 needs to end at the end of term 3, and Unit 3 commence at the start of term 4 in Year 11.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain why that's happening?
Why that's happening is because what we saw was students under significant amount of stress in term one. That middle part of term one, there were students who were having assessments in every subject, and we're not talking small assessment items. We're talking fairly major pieces of assessment, and so we saw some students really struggle at that time. So we need to spread that out a bit because the impact was too great on those students.
So like you mentioned before, Year 12 students will go away in Term 4 as they prepare for their external assessments, which are the same across the state for every Year 12 student. Can you talk a little bit about how this time will look for Year 12 students this year?
Okay, well, we're still designing that specifics around that based on some feedback from the students and based on some learnings that we had from that period of time where we were working from home and the number of students who commented that they really found that as productive time. Now, it wasn't consistent for everyone, but certainly there's some pros and cons there that we need to grapple with. So we're looking at the potential of running some structured workshops, and we're trying to think outside the square a little bit in terms of the timing of those. So do they necessarily have to fit into the normal school day, or can they go into the afternoon a little bit? So we're trying to make sure that there's enough workshops in each of the subjects to adequately prepare students. Still designing it. It's probably going to look like students attending school at least 2 days a week, so to be able to make sure that they are making contact with all of their teachers. And then we're looking at that flexibility of the other 3 days, whether that's some optional workshops, whether they're compulsory workshops, just how that looks, we're still working.
Okay, well, I think that's everything. Thank you very much for joining me today, Mr. Cook.
Thank you very much for having me, Connor. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I just wanted to give another big thank you to Mr. Cook for joining me today on the podcast, and a big thank you to you for listening. It is always much appreciated. I hope we will speak to you soon. Goodbye.